Hey Oronaz, how are you guys? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Erin Meier. I am a missionary with the Church of the Nazarene serving in the country of Papua New Guinea. I'm a physician working at Nazarene Hospital, and I wanted to give you guys an update of what has been happening in my life and in the country of Papua New Guinea during this pandemic of 2020. You guys have been huge supporters of the work of the hospital and the work that I have been doing over there. I worked with Bill and Marcia McCoy for a number of years before they retired, and am thankful to be able to carry on the work that they started, and that hopefully we can keep going for years ahead. COVID has changed some of that work and some of what is happening on my home assignment right now, and so this video will hopefully give you an update of what things are like both for me and over in Papua New Guinea. Thankfully, COVID has not hit Papua New Guinea as far as an illness goes. It's a country of 9 million people, and so far only about 600 people have been diagnosed with coronavirus. Of them, only a handful have passed away from it, which is a huge blessing. Thankfully, we have a number of young people in the country and not as many elderly people, which seems to be the population of patients who happen to do worse with this illness. And so we've only had 600 cases, and thankfully it hasn't overwhelmed hospitals, whereas some of you know we don't have the resources to take care of people. We don't have ventilators. We don't have enough doctors or ICUs to care for patients. And so thankfully that has been good. Part of the bad thing about coronavirus, though, is just the indirect effects that have hurt not just Papua New Guinea, but many third world countries, I would imagine all around, and other countries that the Church of the Nazarene is serving in. And those are things that for us are kind of chronic problems, but problems that we have managed. And now with coronavirus, they have become more emphasized or have become even worse. Lack of medicines, lack of supplies, lack of doctors. Because of coronavirus, international flights have become almost nil. And so we're unable to have volunteer doctors or even doctors like myself who have been in America trying to get back. And so a huge problem for us is for our staff at the hospital now to be able to continue to function and serve in a loving way, sharing Jesus while they're tired and while they're been working pretty hard for the past number of months. My home assignment was supposed to be in May, but because of coronavirus, it got pushed back to the middle of August. I have been home now in America. I live with my sister and her family when I'm home, which is in Pennsylvania. And so I've been home here for about 2 months, and I was supposed to be headed back in the next week or so. But right now there is not a commercial flight available where I can get back to Papua New Guinea. And so we are exploring all kinds of avenues and resources, and hopefully have a lead with the World Food Organization that might get me back in the middle of November. When I go back, I'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks there in Papua New Guinea before I can resume working, but it will be nice to get back to work again. Many people have asked me since I've been home, what is it like over there? What are you experiencing? And as I've mentioned, we just kind of have a lot of the indirect effects of coronavirus that we're experiencing. And as I've been reading in the Bible, the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 has just kind of stuck out with me as an illustration of what it's really like for us there. In Matthew 14, verses 13 to 21, it says, "When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, 'This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food.' Jesus replied, 'They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat.' 'We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish,' they answered. 'Bring them here to me,' he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children." I know I've shared this story with you guys before, just kind of illustrating life at Kujip, but I feel like it even illustrates it more now. In many ways, we are a very isolated and remote country that currently is has no way for other people to get to us. Just like Jesus and his disciples went to a solitary place, and the people there didn't have a way to get food. That's kind of what Papua New Guinea is like right now. There aren't planes coming. Ships finally started coming again, but we haven't had mail since March. And so we are really isolated and cut off. And in this story, the disciples are coming to Jesus after he's healed them and said, we got to send him away. We don't have enough resources. We can't feed these people. We can't take care of their needs. And Jesus says to the disciples, what do you have? And they said, we have 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he says, bring them to me. And then they were able to feed over 5,000 people. And I feel like today that's kind of what Kujip is like. At times we are saying we have to send the patients away. We can't keep seeing patients. We've only have 1 surgeon who's been there on her own since January. We only have 4 regular doctors. We can't continue to see 200 patients a day. We can't continue to operate every day of the week or do 3,000 deliveries or over 1,500 major surgeries. We have to change something. And yet God is continuing to say to us, what do you have in your hands? What can you offer? And continues to meet the needs that we have, continues to give us the supplies that we need, and continues to provide both for the patients as well as for us as a hospital, which is encouraging at a time when we're not sure what tomorrow's going to look like, knowing that nothing that is happening was not known to God, that the situation was known to God, our need for supplies, our need for medicines, our need for doctors, that God knew all that. And he does have a plan, and we continue to trust him both for our needs as the missionaries in Papua New Guinea, as well as for the needs of the patients, where our hospital serves as the only hospital for over 350,000 people. And if our doors aren't open, if we don't have doctors to take care of people's needs, where are they going to go? And this isn't easy. It's not easy for anyone, but we continue to try to meet the needs the best we can while continuing to share and minister with the patients. Shortly before I came home in August, I was able to see a man named Joe who was in his 50s. He came with his wife and his adult son, and he came complaining of abdominal pain, said it had been going on for about 2 months. And when I examined him, he looked like a pretty healthy individual. I found that he had some fluid in his abdomen when I examined him, and I thought he probably has tuberculosis. So I asked him if I could do an ultrasound, and I took him and his family to the ultrasound room, and when I put the ultrasound on his abdomen, I was expecting just to find a bunch of fluid, and while I did find fluid, I also found some masses that were in his liver. He has liver cancer, and I had to tell him that in our setting, we're not going to be able to fix that. We're not surgically going to be able to remove it. And as I shared that with him, he started crying. And then his wife started crying. And then their adult son started crying. And sometimes I wonder if patients hear what I'm saying. But I know for sure Joe heard exactly the words that I was saying. And when the tears stopped, I was able to just ask him, who is Jesus? Do you know who Jesus is in your life? And they were able to encourage me by saying, yeah, we know who Jesus. We have hope beyond today. We have hope for tomorrow. And if this illness takes me, I know where I'm going. And that's why we're at Kujip. For people like Joe, I'm glad Joe knew who Jesus was, but we try to share the story of Jesus, the love of Jesus with people who don't know, whether it's Joe or someone else. We're there to certainly help as we can medically and to meet the medical needs that patients have, whether it's through surgery or admitting someone for a diarrheal illness and helping them get better, or pneumonia and helping them get better, or giving them TB medicine or HIV medicine, or helping them deliver a baby. But we're also there in the middle of that, of trying to figure out where are they in their journey with the Lord. And if they don't know Christ, to try to introduce them to Christ or get them started on that step. And you guys have been a huge part of that through the years, through your support of myself and the McCoys in the past, and just your support of the hospital as a whole. And I want to thank you for that, and I look forward to the day that I will be able to join you again in Oroville, sharing with you what God has been doing at Kujip. But for now, I hope you guys stay safe the rest of this pandemic year, and continue to trust in God, knowing that if he can feed 5,000 people on an isolated hillside with nothing but 5 loaves and 2 fish, he can meet your needs too, just like he's doing in Papua New Guinea. Thank you.